Hi, this is Bob Pike, and this is podcast number 1 of Lessons from Learning Leaders. And going from this point forward, it's going to be a combination of a variety of things. Sometimes I'll be interviewing people that I know that are what I consider to be giants in the learning industry. And sometimes it'll be simply me sharing lessons that I've learned, as my wife likes to say, tell me a story. And my partner in crime, although I probably shouldn't use that, but my partner in crime, my aide de camp, if you will, is Dwayne Lester. And Dwayne has a lot of experience with podcasting, and he and I have been working together in a variety of ways over the last 5 years. And so, Dwayne, thank you. I appreciate all of the help and support that you've given me, and that is going to continue with this podcast.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm actually looking forward to working on this with you and continue to learn from you on this, and to contribute to this arena. So thanks for giving me the opportunity.
So for those of you that don't know, my name is Bob Pike, and in 1995, I keynoted at ATD's Tech Learn conference, and I was introduced as the trainer's trainer. So I've kind of used that since then, because I didn't say it. ASTD at the time, now ATD, said it. But I've written 30 books in English that have been translated into multiple languages. The Master Trainer Handbook is the best-selling Train the Trainer book that's ever been published. And I have 6 books that are entirely in Japanese that have not been published in English. And I've had the privilege in my 50-plus year career to work in over 25 countries, and over 185,000 trainers in those countries have gone through my multiple-day Train the Trainer program. So my whole goal is, with learning, is to unlock learning, unleash performance. And my overall goal in life is to add value and make a difference. And so tonight we thought we'd kick off with maybe a couple of things that are a little bit more fun and yet still have a learning point. Because I think that anytime you tell a story, the key is what's the learning point to it. And so I thought I would start by sharing my most embarrassing moment in training. And a number of years ago, probably closer to 35 or 40 years ago now, I was running a multiple day program called Adventures and Attitudes. And it was 30 hours, and it was very intense. And the focus was really, it was facilitator led, but it was really drawing things out of the participants themselves. So the trainer was actually, and very really, the guide on the side, not the sage on the stage. And in one particular project, we had a situation where we gave people a problem. We actually had them read through it. And it had to do with a family that had 2 children, aged 3 and 5. And the children were having problems with the next door neighbor's children and the next door neighbor's dog. And so we gave them like 9 possible solutions. And so we asked people to choose what they thought was the best solution. And so when they had done that, we had people reconvene, and we had about 80 people in this session. And so the average group had 6, 8, 10 people in it. And we said, okay, so now what we'd like you to do is discuss, why is your decision the best decision? And then you're going to select someone to present to the other groups why yours was the best decision. Now, there was a hidden agenda to this. The goal wasn't really for them to solve the problem. An hour and a half before that, we had just gone through a lot of stuff on listening and listening to understand and that kind of thing. And so the goal of this activity was less about persuading people and more about, did you listen to people? And so we gave people a few minutes to prepare, and then they started giving their presentations. And many of them were giving their presentations to me. And finally, I said, please don't give your presentation to me because I can't join your group. And if I had stopped right there, it would have been perfect. But suddenly this thought flitted into my mind. And for those of you old enough to remember Saturday Night Live and Mr. Bill, it was like Mr. Bill saying, oh, no, no. And it's like, Bob, don't say that. But before that I could clamp down, it just flowed out of my mouth. And I said, besides, I already know the right answer. And just like that, you could see a mood just descend on the group. And I knew I shouldn't have said that. And I know that a number of people in the group knew I shouldn't have said that. But I just kind of bowled on through. We finished the activity. We continued on. And it kept bothering me. So about a half hour later, I said, there's something I need to say. And as soon as I said that, I could tell that there were at least 10 or 15 people in the group that already knew what I was going to say. And I said, a while ago we did this activity about the parents and the kids and the dog. And by now, the purpose of it was not to persuade. It was to really look at how well do we really listen, especially since a couple of hours ago we spent a lot of time talking about and all agreeing how important listening was. And I said, but don't give your presentation to me. And besides, I already know the right answer. Well, by now there wasn't any right answer. But when I did that, I really intruded on your program. This is your program, your thoughts, your ideas. I'm here to be a guide. I'm here to help draw the best out of you. And when I did that, I really intruded on your program. And I'd like to say, would you forgive me? Now, let me tell you, it was very tough for me to do that. But as soon as I did that, the mood in the room changed. Because not only did the 10 people or so that kind of knew what I was going to say, but now it kind of dawned on everybody else. I was feeling a little out of sorts, and now I know why. It was because of Bob did that, and I didn't really focus on it. But now that it comes up, I realize that, that was really a showstopper for me. And so the interesting thing, a number of years later, I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine, Ken Blanchard. And he said that, when we apologize for something right away, people let it go as a weakness. The longer we take to make it right, the more people perceive it as a wickedness. And that suddenly helped me to clarify, why I did what I did. And also regret that it had taken me like half an hour. But thankfully, I did it. And so let me just say that the things that I learned from it is to remember what my role is and stay there. And if you make a mistake, and we all do, let's make sure that we correct that mistake. And I have 10 deadly sins that I talk to people about in my Train the Trainer program, and one of them is apologizing for yourself or the organization. But what I mean by that is that oftentimes things go wrong, and you're the only one that's really aware of it. Then just take care of it. For example, I was speaking at a conference one time, and the presenter, the MC, was introducing me first thing in the morning, and he said, "Now, I know that some of you had a problem with mice in your room last night, but I've been assured that the exterminators on premises, the rooms are being fumigated, there won't be any further problems. Here's Bob." Well, I'll tell you what, people were not thinking about whatever I was going to say. They were thinking about, is there a mouse in my room? Do I even want to go back to my room? Do I even want to stay in this hotel? Now, there were, when I later checked, only one person had a problem. But now it was a problem for that 600-person conference. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. But when you do something that impacts the entire group, then I think that what we need to do is we just need to step up, admit it, and take care of it so that we can move on. And so that was my most embarrassing moment as a trainer.
Bob, do you think, as I listened to your story, something came to mind that I'm working with some other trainers on in a couple weeks, and that is so often we see folks who will get on stage and it almost becomes intoxicating, and they think the entire event then is about them. And the emphasis that I'm trying to put on this training with some trainers coming up is it's not about you. You're not there so you can show everybody in that room how smart you are. You're there for them. Do you think maybe you lost sight of that when that came up?
Oh, absolutely. And the interesting thing is that in my trainer sessions, I say the purpose of training is for people to leave impressed with themselves, not intimidated by the instructor, excited about what they now know they didn't know before, what they can now do they couldn't do before, with more confidence in themselves. And I think that I think that a lot of trainers are what I call broken kung fu masters. And what I mean by that, and some of you that are a little older will remember the American TV program called Kung Fu. And the principal character was Kwai Chang Caine, and he had been mentored by Shaolin monks when he was growing up. And he had a number of masters, but the principal master was blind, Master Po. And he had a nickname for Caine called Grasshopper. And in the opening credits, you see Caine growing up, and you see as his final thing, he goes out into the cold, and here's this cauldron of hot coals, like cast iron, and he grips it like this, puts his arm around it, and it's burning these dragons into his arms, and he lifts it and carries it, and that kind of completes his training as a Shaolin monk. And he always called Caine Grasshopper. And Master Po's goal was always to empower, inspire, and equip Caine so that ultimately he surpassed the master. But I think sometimes we have trainers who are basically what I call broken kung fu masters. So it's like, no matter how much you leave here knowing, Grasshopper, you will still not be as great as the master. Because I've kind of withheld that one final, ultimate, tiny secret, because I wouldn't want you to be better than me. And I've had a number of trainers in my career that I work with, and that I finally had to say, we really can't work together anymore because you're making the training program too much about you. And people say, oh, I love so-and-so's energy, but I could never get that energy. And I said, it's not about you wowing everybody. As a matter of fact, the ultimate compliment I think I've ever been paid at the end of a trainer session was somebody that came up to me and said, Bob, I didn't see you do anything I can't do. And they left, and another one of my trainers had been training with me, and she said, well, what an insult. I said, no, what a compliment. And she said, well, he doesn't realize how many years it took you to learn how to. And I said, no, what he's basically saying is that we've empowered and inspired, equipped him. He's got the confidence that he can try all of the things that we've modeled this week. High five. We've done our jobs. That's the goal, to have people leave impressed with themselves, not intimidated by the instructor. So I think that that's something that I forget on occasion, hopefully not as often anymore. And I think that it's something people need to be reminded of, because as trainers, we're not speakers. it's not about the show. It's not about people, oh, if I can only be like Bob, but I never can. It's like, no, I can be like Bob. I can involve my audience. I can get them participating. I can allow them reflection time and all of the things that make for participant-centered learning.
Something else that I considered while you were talking about the fact that this kept nagging at you. I wonder how much, if you hadn't taken the time to stop and say, let's address this and let me apologize, and you had, again, made it about you. I can't apologize. I can't show this weakness. I can't show that I made a mistake. Mm-hmm. How worse off that training would have been, because you would have been so preoccupied with what you said, you couldn't have focused 100% on creating as much value for the people in the room.
Well, I think that for me, with my personality, the guilt would have just kept growing. God wouldn't have allowed me to leave that alone. I mean, it's like, no, just shove it off in a corner. And it's like, no, that's not going to happen. And the older I get, the easier it is for me to say I made a mistake.
Yeah, and it's difficult for some folks to step into that and admit it. But like you said, it's not about you. It's about the people in that room and delivering as much content as you can, or not as much content, but as much value as you can.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, what else do we want to talk about tonight?
Well, I was thinking about my second most embarrassing moment as a trainer. And actually, let me set it up by saying sometimes I actually use this if we're doing a multiple day event and if we're having like a group meal. And what I'll do at the beginning of the meal is say, look, you've got 6 or 8 trainers at your table. I'm going to give you a table topic. And it's what's your most embarrassing moment as a trainer. I'm going to tell you my second most embarrassing moment. And when we come back, if there are some really good ones that you think everybody should hear, we'll hear those. And if there are some of those, then I promise to share my most embarrassing moment as a trainer. And so this is actually the one, and I'll tell you, it is amazing how it helps a group to bond, especially when the leader starts it. And so the one I shared was that I was doing one of my results-based creative learning strategies workshops. And in the workshop were 2 people that I already knew potentially wanted to be my trainers and learn how to do that workshop. And so they had been there for 2 days. And so at noon the second day, I knew I was going to be leaving from Atlanta to fly to California. And so I went up, packed my clothes, got them in the car so that because I was going to have a pretty short connection time at the airport. So we're in the afternoon, about 2 o'clock, so we have about 2.5 hours left to go. And we're doing an activity or something, and somebody drops a pen, and I just reach over and pick it up, and I hear rip, and my right pant leg ripped from below my knee all the way up to my crotch. And so I turned kind of sideways and kept on talking. And then I thought, oh man, what am I going to do? And I thought, oh, I've got these 2 trainers here and I'm trying to impress them so that they want to be part of the team. And so we finished and I got the group into another activity. And I thought, okay, all of my other clothes are already in the car, so I can't do anything about that. So I ran to the front desk and I said, do you have a stapler? I grabbed the stapler, went into the restroom, peeled the pants off, turned them inside out, and stapled up the seam and put it back on so I could finish the program. But I just thought, okay, how many people heard that? And did anybody see that? Now, that's an example where I never shared. Now, some of you might have noticed that I ripped my pant leg. I did not do that. And fortunately, both the people later became my trainers and were trainers with me for 10 or 15 years. So, but that was my second most embarrassing moment as a trainer. And, but it also taught me that I have some creativity in me to think about, okay, how am I going to solve this problem? Not worry about how do I look, how do I solve this problem? How do we finish the program? And so that was my second most embarrassing moment as a trainer.
It sounds like as a trainer, we are going to have opportunities to practice that creativity. We're going to have opportunities where we can show the humility that we'll need to do the job well. It sounds like the lessons that you learned from this are it's okay to say you're sorry when you've done something wrong. You should actually do that. And you should absolutely do everything you can to keep moving forward. If that means stopping what you're doing, recognizing what you've done wrong, asking for that forgiveness, you need to do that. If it means running and finding a stapler so you can fix the seam in your pants, you keep moving forward, because ultimately it's not about you. It's about the people in that room who are there. You're there to help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's entirely on point. So I think this is probably a good ending point for our first podcast, and I'm excited about what's going to be coming. We've already interviewed some pretty exciting guests, and I think that we've got more things coming along. I was going to say coming down the pike, but that's for somebody else to say, not for me to say. So thanks, Wayne. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this too.